All right, let's dive right in. Today, we're putting on our detective hats because we're going to demystify AWS CloudTrail. The service that logs every single thing that happens inside your AWS account. So grab your magnifying glass. Our investigation starts right now. You know the feeling, right? That question that just sends a shiver down every engineer's spine. A critical resource is gone, the app is down, and the clock is ticking. The very first step in solving this mystery is always the same: figuring out exactly what happened. And that really gets to the heart of the matter, the core challenge in any cloud environment. How in the world do you keep track of the who, the what, the when, and the where for every single action? Getting this right isn't just a good idea, it's absolutely fundamental to security. I want you to imagine trying to solve a crime with zero witnesses and no evidence. That's pretty much what it's like managing an AWS account without an audit log. I mean, every time someone launches a server or changes a security group or even just accesses data, that's an action. Without a record of all that, you are completely flying blind. This is where our hero enters the scene, our digital detective, AWS CloudTrail. It is the definitive logbook, and it's designed to solve this exact challenge for your entire AWS infrastructure. So here's the thing you've got to understand. CloudTrail isn't just some nice-to-have feature. It is a foundational service for governance, for risk, for compliance. And the best part, it's active the moment you create your account, just silently in the background, recording all the evidence you're going to need later. And the basic unit of evidence that CloudTrail collects is something called an event. It doesn't matter if you click something in the AWS console, run a command from the CLI, or even if an automated service does something on its own, CloudTrail captures it as a distinct event. And what's so cool about this is how clearly an event record answers all of our key questions. Look, you can see the exact time the action happened. You can see which user or role did it. You can see the specific action they took, like in this case, terminate instances, and which service was involved, like EC2. This right here, this is the raw data for our whole investigation. Okay, so CloudTrail is busy collecting all this fantastic evidence for us. But how do we actually access it? Well, it gives us two main ways to start digging in. So on one hand, you have event history, which is kind of like a quick search of recent activity. Think of it as short-term memory. And on the other hand, you've got trails. Trails are for building a permanent, long-term archive of everything. They serve two totally different but equally important purposes. Yeah, think of event history as your go-to for those immediate, hey, what just happened questions, like who logged into the console in the last hour, or what S3 actions happened yesterday. It's built right in, you don't have to set up anything, and it gives you a searchable view of the last 90 days of management events right there in the console. Super handy. Now, for that permanent record, you're going to need a trail. And look how ridiculously simple this is to set up. You just give it a name, you tell it which S3 bucket to store the logs in, you decide what to record, and boom, you're done. This creates an immutable log, and that is exactly what you need to prove to auditors that your security controls have been in place and haven't been messed with. All right, so we've got our evidence locker set up with trails. Now let's talk about the really cool stuff, the more powerful tools for analysis. This is where we go from just gathering logs to actively interrogating our data. So, while trails are great for storage, the logs are just a bunch of JSON files sitting in an S3 bucket. To analyze them, you often need to pull in other tools. CloudTrail Lake, though? Oh, it's a total game changer. It takes those events, it stores them in a highly optimized format, and it lets you query them directly using standard SQL for up to 10 years. And this quote right here, it just gets to the heart of it. Instead of downloading and trying to parse massive log files, you can now ask super complex questions directly. For instance, you could literally write a SQL query to find every single action a specific user performed across all regions in the last 5 years. That is incredibly powerful. CloudTrail even has a proactive detective for you. It's called Insights. It uses machine learning to figure out what's normal for your account. So if it suddenly sees a weird spike in, say, server termination requests, or a burst of login errors from a country you've never seen before, it flags that for you automatically. It's like having a detective who notices when something just doesn't feel right. So we have this incredible digital detective working for us 24/7. But why is this so critical for anyone running workloads on AWS? I mean, what's the big deal? Well, the answer really comes down to three key pillars. First up, operational auditing. When things break, CloudTrail tells you what changed, helping you troubleshoot way faster.
Second, risk governance. It helps you make sure your policies are actually being followed and that there's no shady activity. And finally, the big one, compliance validation. For standards like PCI or HIPAA, you have to prove your controls are working. CloudTrail provides that unchangeable audit trail that auditors rely on to verify your security is being enforced moment by moment.
And that brings us to the final thought I want to leave you with. Since CloudTrail is on by default, your account is already building this rich history of every single action that's ever taken place. The data is there. So the real question is, now that you know what's possible, are you ready to use it to find the answers you need?